Hello, Kayanne here with my collage packs for my top tier patrons, and these are like some leftover single packs from things that they Happy Mail they receive each month, and this is a few different months worth here, and I just thought I'd share that with you, but mostly I'm going to do some collage play today. But I just wanted to share where the source of my papers was. I'm using these collage packs to do that. I'm just kind of real quickly going through some of these just to have an idea of what I have to work with. Some of the things I set aside to be used in like my planners, memory keeping journals, things like that. There's stickers and postcards. My collage pack people get all the perks of all the tiers below them as well. So this is just kind of like an their add-on that they get. And so I had some packs left over. So I'm just going through, taking a look at what's in them. I've kind of accumulated them over some months. That these were just the leftovers, and taking a look what's in there, and then I am going to use the papers in these to create some collage. So that's what's happening today. So if you have a scrap bin of papers, feel free to pull those up and do some collaging with me. I certainly include a variety of papers in here. There's note cards, there's postcards, there's little stationery bits and hand-painted papers, and even the envelopes I like to use. So there's stickers and art print postcards, washi tape sometimes, like here, some of my old art bits. Every once in a while I send a great big pack like this one, maybe about twice a year or so, and fit some bigger papers in there too, in addition to all the other little goodies. And these bigger packs, I can fit some larger sheets, like some full book page sheets, map pages. There was some William Morris wrapping paper in there. These are some vintage songbook pages, coloring book pages, just all kinds of assortment of things. Just anything that I think that I would have fun using is fair game to include in these kits. So this was from the Flow magazine. This is some collage out of a collage book. More Flow magazine bits here that wouldn't fit in my normal little one, or maybe something I don't want to fold. So there I have my big heap of papers to work with. So the next thing I'm going to do is pull out this vintage book that I have prepared ahead of time. As far as I've removed some pages, I've put gesso over some of the pages, paint over some of them. Some of them have paper on them, but there was a lot of blank pages, as in not print, in this book to start with, which is why I chose it for an altered book journal. So I'm jumping right in here with this first collage is pretty much done in there already, and so I'm just going to kind of work on several through here, and I usually will get one started, but I may not add finishing touches to it till later. So I'm just working on cutting some shapes, sorting through my papers, seeing what I want to use. And like, this is a postcard from some Andy Warhol art, which he made from some movie poster or some such thing. So now I'm cutting it up in turn and making my own collage elements with it. I'm kind of inspired right now by mid-century type shapes, and so I'm kind of looking at some of those for making shapes for these collages. And my process is to just cut some interesting shapes and then play around with arranging them and rearranging them until I find something I like. I don't really have any rules here. It just, other than it just needs to be visually pleasing somehow to me. So this is just, it's basically a sketchbook for collages. So they may not all turn out, that's fine. It's just a way to play around and experiment and do a little collage practice, see what shapes I like and what shapes don't work well for me. So a whole mix of things here, but I thought using these collage packs would be a great way to start that. Since these are just in a sketchbook and fairly protected, I'm just using a glue stick to stick them in. If I'm doing an actual piece of artwork that was a collage piece, I usually use matte gel medium. I just feel like that's a little bit more secure. I'm not real particular about my brand of glue stick. They all have their pros and cons. Right now I'm using just an Elmer's school glue stick. The advantage of it is it goes on purple, and you can tell that it's still wet because when it dries clear. So you kind of have an idea of your work time with that. I'm trying to work kind of quickly and don't do a whole lot of planning ahead because I want this to be fairly intuitive. I do kind of lay things out and then shuffle them around before I actually glue them down. But I'm trying not spend too much time at that and just kind of go with if I find something I like, I just stick it down. I'm kind of liking this cream color of the pages and the vintage book pages that I included on here with the black. I think that's kind of a nice combination and one that I might like to do in a piece of art. So this book will kind of serve as a little reference for me of color palettes and shapes, and to see what I like and don't like and what works and what doesn't work. So this will become sort of a reference book for me as I create larger art collages. You may have noticed my kind of funky scissors I have here. I received these as a gift. They're Japanese scissors, and they're advertised that they slice instead of cut. And I'm not sure what that difference is, but they do feel really nice. That one blade is curved, so they're shaped a little bit different than normal scissors. And I do just really like how they feel. I'm just really having a lot of fun with this, trying out different shapes. I'm kind of finding that I really like the shape that's left behind, the frame, I guess, of the shape that I cut out. I'm really enjoying using those in these collages and having a background behind it like these that you can see that book page kind of through back behind. I'm also really feel like color palette is a really important part of these, and I'm enjoying finding which colors I like or the color combinations that I like together. Since this is an altered book that would have just been thrown away otherwise, I don't feel like I need to worry about using too many pages or using up pages without doing something really cool on it. It makes me feel much freer in just trying out several collages here and just gluing things down on the pages before I know that it's, anything perfect or precious or anything like that, and just having fun, experimenting, working quickly, working intuitively, and getting those color combinations and shape combinations that are pleasing. Calling these collages done for now, but that doesn't mean I won't go back later and add to them as I see fit, but it certainly gives me some good launching places, or maybe they will stay like this. I don't know at this point. Some of the pages that I used had been painted on, so they already had a bit of a color scheme going. I thought this little bits from the red themed month would be perfect on this page. When I have heavy pieces of paper like these little cards that were game cards, I often peel them in two just so that they lay a little nicer in the collage. This one I'm making kind of a modified symmetrical, which is a little different for me, but kind of a easy composition device when you have a double page spread like this. So I'm not putting things in exactly the same place on each side, but pretty much if I'm putting something on one side, I'm putting it on the other as well, with the exception of these little elements here at the bottom. I really like how this book is shaping up. It just is so much fun to work in. I think I will be reaching for it. I have a whole box of fun little, like, tiny scraps. I call it my tiny scrap box, and it's kind of bursting at the seams, so I need to do something with those, and I'm really looking forward to spending some time just sticking my little bits into this book and kind of filling it out. So I'm sure you'll be seeing more on this book later. And one thing I need to do though is a little patching up on the spine or the binding here. It's kind of loose. This is an old vintage book. I can't remember the year now, but it's pretty old, in the early 1900s, and it's a little bit falling apart here. So I'm going to take a minute and do some patching up, and I'm just going to use some washing tape and packing tape on here. I also often put a envelope into my sketchbook journals, and it's particularly appropriate, I think, in this case, because I have all these little scraps left that I think that I will want to use, and so I'll be able to just put those in this envelope and have them handy and ready to pull out whenever I have a minute or two to glue something down in this book, and they'll be super handy that way. So I am just going to glue it in as well, have it there handy. I'm going to do some more decorating with collage on this front page. Kind of first thing when you open the cover, you'll have kind of a hint of what this book is about. And I decided to put the word bits on the flap of that envelope. I always put the envelopes with the opening to the inside. That way if the flap should come open, something slip out, it can't go anywhere. So that is just a little tip for when you have envelopes glued in for ephemera or whatever. I like them to either open at the top or to the inside. And just adding some more collage bits. I will probably go add to this front collage. I think I would like it to look like pretty busy, but I'll go back to that later and have fun adding shapes and odds and ends scraps to it as I go. I also cut out letters for collages because I thought that was sort of the title of the book. I didn't really like it on that front spread, so I'm putting it here. I had preserved the table of contents page and just gessoed over it and then drew in my own lines because I might go back and like number pages and name pieces, or who knows what, but I have that option there. So I decided this was the perfect place to add in collages. It's much easier to cut letters out of paper than people think. You just cut a strip the size you want, and then it's you cut out words just like you would draw them. So people are always intimidated by that, but it's easier than you would think. I'm using one of those scraps that I was talking about to frame the copyright date on this book, just to kind of remind myself that I want to keep that. I like keeping a portion of the history of the original book. It's kind of a way to acknowledge it and I guess honor it in my way, even while I am altering and gluing over and doing other things in it. So I've done several pages in here, but I also have a whole lot of blank ones waiting and ready for me, so that will be great fun. I'm glad that my past self took the time to kind of prep this book and make it ready, because now it's just going to be easy and fun to use. So that's it for my collage book. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.